Now we're going to talk to Sarah Jaffe along with Joshua Holland. She wrote this article on AlterNet called "Which Bank is the Worst for America? 5 Behemoths That Hold Our Political System Hostage." Sarah, welcome to the Young Turks.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. Now, people like Herman Cain will say, oh, look, the banks are just trying to make a profit, and you guys are just hounding them, and you should just let the private market control here. How would you respond to that?
First off, I'm not answering any questions from Herman Cain until he talks about sexual assault, but that's another story entirely. Meanwhile, sure, everybody's just trying to make a profit. That's great. I mean, if I had $25 million to spare, I might try to buy a couple of politicians too. The problem is most of us don't have that. We don't start off with an equal playing field. So, all right. Also, the more you spend on politicians, the more they write laws that favor you and screw the rest of us. So,
well, I couldn't agree more with that. And you guys had some great facts in your article. So how much do they spend on politicians?
Oh, well, which way do they spend it on politicians? I mean, the biggest thing that we learned doing this piece was really that it's impossible to measure this stuff, right? That we all know Citizens United has basically made it possible for the banks and anybody else to donate as much money as they want without having to disclose it, to spend it in whatever way they so choose on the political process. That said, there are some numbers that you can find out, like the fact that Goldman Sachs, who has spent the most of the 5 banks we looked at on campaign donations, spent $21 million or so over the last few years. That Citigroup has spent $82 million on lobbyists in the last 10 years or so. It keeps on going. But the other thing is that however much they spend, it was dwarfed entirely by how much they got back from us.
So talk to us about that, because a lot of people say, hey, you know what, and lead among them Tim Geithner, they repaid TARP, so we must all be even.
No, we're not even. We're not even close to even. We're not even close to even. And let's not, once again, Timmy Geithner, I got some questions for him too. But first off, right, they repaid the TARP. The loans that they got from the Federal Reserve, for instance, which were far bigger than the TARP bailout in the first place, were lent to them at practically no interest. And then they turned around and lent that money out at normal to, ridiculous interest rates. So they basically made a profit on it, and they paid back, with little to no interest. In some cases, they shuffled some money around so they could pay it back sooner, so they had to pay even less interest. Meanwhile, they were making a profit on our money.
So, as I was reading your article, Sarah, I think that one of the most maddening parts was that all this stuff was done with no strings attached. Because
basically no strings attached, yes.
Right. Now, look, if they get the TARP money, and then they get on top of that the backdoor bailouts like AIG shuffling $13 billion to Goldman Sachs. Even AIG executives were shocked that Tim Geithner said that they should pay him 100 cents on the dollar on that backdoor bailout. Yeah. And then you've got, the $1.2 trillion at its height that the Federal Reserve gave out in basically free money, which then a lot of that they turned around and charged us 3 to 4% to loan it back to the Treasury, which is outrageous. But they did all of that without asking for anything in return. So when you see that, isn't it almost like Exhibit A, B, and C of the hopeless political corruption of our system? Because no one in their right mind, if they were a real capitalist, would ever do that.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think there are people camping out in parks around the country in miserable weather right now? Because this whole thing is completely broken, or worse than broken, it's actually operating the way they want it to, which is that, the National Nurses United started a campaign for a financial transactions tax right now. Well, they and many other people. But the nurses are selling stickers that say, tax Timmy's friends. And you know who Timmy's friends are, right? Timmy Geithner's friends are the banks. And the same with both parties in all branches of government. I mean, don't get me started once again on Clarence Thomas. Our government's bought and paid for, and no wonder people are protesting in the streets because they don't feel that anybody in power is taking them seriously.
So, there was a banking executive that once told a reporter, fairly recently actually, referred to Tim Geithner as our man in Washington.
Oh, yeah.
And as you did the research on this, and you see exactly how the banks got these enormous unfair advantages.
Yeah.
Did you get more disillusioned with President Obama for him to have sanctioned all of this, to put Tim Geithner in there in the first place, and to shovel all this money to the banks and get absolutely nothing in return?
I mean, I'm more disillusioned is sort of a hard thing to measure at this point. I have not had a lot of faith in the Democratic Party in quite a while, personally. But, yeah, no, it's absolutely disappointing. It's disappointing to lots of people who thought that this was going to be different, that we were going to get the actual Goldman Sachs executive out of the Treasury Department, and we got somebody who may not have ever worked there, but certainly has their interest at heart more than ours. Yeah, it's just, both parties are thoroughly in the pockets of the banks. And this year, they might be leaning a little bit more money towards Mitt Romney because, Obama's making some noises like, we might actually, I don't know. The rumor that there might be prosecutions got all of us really excited, but we don't know if it's going to happen. But the point being, these banks split their campaign donations pretty much down the middle between parties. It's just impossible.
Yeah, by the way, a former Goldman director was brought up on charges recently, but when you looked into that case, it turns out he was because he had cheated the other Goldman partners.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, the people who get, back in the day when Bernie Madoff happened, right? And Bernie Madoff was the symbol of all that's wrong with Wall Street. Well, Bernie Madoff, it's a difference of degree, not really of kind. I mean, the whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. The whole thing is people making money by selling things to other people that, they don't even own. Witness all the banks that are foreclosing on homes that they don't even own the note on. It's money being shuffled around, and people are making ridiculous amounts of money off of it, while the rest of us either have no jobs, our wages haven't gone up in 30 years. The jobs that have been created, 73% of the jobs that have been created since the so-called recovery have been low-wage jobs, and by low-wage, that is under $12 an hour.
Right.
We're getting screwed, and these guys are making millions and billions, and they might get a little bit less in bonuses this year, but once again, no wonder people are in the streets. No wonder people were moving their money this Saturday.
Right, and Madoff made the terrible mistake of stealing from the rich.
Right, exactly.
That's the only way you ever get punished. So
exactly.
last thing, Sarah, as I read the article you and Joshua wrote here at AlterNet, something occurred to me that I kind of like that I want to run by you.
Okay.
You guys write about how the banks were happy to accept government deposit insurance, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And backup lines of credit provided by the Fed through the discount window.
Yep.
And I came upon an idea when I read that line in your article, which is that the next time any banker complains, or any Republican complains about the government being involved, that you should say, hey, you know what? I'm with you guys. We will end all government regulation of the banks the minute that they agree that there should be no line of credit from the Fed's discount window.
Well, I mean, that's just a start. I don't think that, I'm not ready to end all regulation of the banks anytime soon.
But Sarah, it's never going to happen because their whole bloodline is that line of credit.
It's never going to happen. No, they're totally dependent on this. Bank of America, right? Bank of America is the one that's closest to collapse right now. But, I mean, I have actually not been watching what's going on in Europe as closely because I've been reporting mostly recently on Occupy Wall Street. But the system is still really shaky. The entire international financial system is still really shaky, and they are all waiting for their next bailout.
Yes.
Because they know it'll come. Bank of America is not going to collapse. We're not going to see that happen.
Well, look, we are, because we're going to run out of money. But
well, we can just keep printing it. It's cool. That's what the Fed does best. Only when they need it, though.
I know, and then we'll have insane inflation. And look,
anyway.
Right, and just I want the audience to understand that the banks, in reality, love government intervention.
Oh, yeah.
They live on government intervention. If you said to them, we will end your line of credit through the Fed, which is government intervention, they would lose it. They literally could not function the next day. So they only want the government intervention that helps them. They hate the government intervention that says, hey, you can't make a profit off of people's deposits or the taxpayers anymore. So don't believe the hype that they don't believe in big government. They love big government.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just They
Government
want
needs
all
to be
the
just big
unfair
enough to provide
advantages
them
and
with
none of the
bailouts.
rules.
Yep.
Yeah, and look, I just can't recommend the article enough. It's got great facts in there. Sarah Jaffe from AlterNet, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.